Barstool, I think, just sent a bunch of T-shirts that they had ready to go to Nicaragua that had the word history on it, with the T was just Jimmy Butler on one knee calling for a timeout. Those shirts are now going to be dish rags somewhere. They were going to be something that made a lot of money for Barstool and Boston, and instead they have fled the internet in Boston because they're in that position that Heat fans know pretty well, of avoiding your television and the internet because you don't want to hear all American sports fans laughing at you. Many people today have been laughing at us because we can't get a show out on time. We can't do anything about the fact that our building lost power. But Greg Cote has taken this opportunity, as he often does, to tweet in the middle of this: while the power is out on the Le Batard Show, you can always get your Greg Cote fix right now.
Wow,
listen to our latest episode at the GregCoteShow.com. Greg Cote taking advantage of trying to steal our audience because the power went out. What are you shaking your head at me for?
Good job, Yeti, as an aside. I like the tweet. I just didn't do it. I would have approved of it, but they don't clear it with me.
Do you have your back in my day?
No, we don't have it today.
No, it's quality control.
It's a Tuesday that feels like a Monday, Dan, in his defense. I mean, come on.
Right. Holiday week, yeah.
It's the double dream disclaimer.
Dan?
Yes, Brad.
I know I'm a guest on this show, but I thought this might happen. So if the room doesn't mind, I wrote a back in my day.
Oh, you've got a back in my day. You have done the job that Greg Cote does not do, even though he is here every Tuesday. Mike Scher's done it for him. Brad Williams now does it for him. AI has done it for him. Everyone does it except for Greg Cote.
Excellent.
Holiday week, yeah.
It's laziness again rewarded. Jeremy Taché here at the height of entertainment. Can you just hold your phone up to the microphone so that Brad Williams, a king of comedy, can have the kind of show business accompaniment that he requires?
And now it is time to take a trip down memory lane. Here's your guy, Greg Cote, with Back in My Day.
$50 million, DraftKings, $50 million. Barbecues. It was Memorial Day this past weekend. And while the meaning of the holiday is to remember and honor the sacrifices that brave men and women have made for our country, the reason so many of us get excited for the 3-day weekend is we know it's a time-honored tradition to gather around the grill, pop the top on a Miller Lite, and have a barbecue. Ah, the barbecue, one of the oldest known ways to cook. The first barbecue recipes are associated with the ancient Egyptian and Sumerian civilizations around 7,000 BC, back when Greg Cote was a spry teenager. The greatness of the barbecue is its simplicity. Pit, meat, fire. Hell, you could even cook barbecue during a blackout. Not that you need to know that, because when do extended blackouts happen, especially in modern cities? Never. The secret to great barbecue can also describe my sex life. Low and slow, baby. Barbecues used to be simple. Have you seen barbecues now? Gas grills, electric grills, wood chip smokers. What kind of wood? Maple, oak, mesquite, cedar, wood chips, hickory, cherry, pecan, mulberry, adler. Are these types of wood, or did I just name all of Nick Cannon's kids?
What happened to the audio? Jeremy, what happened? There it is.
We're doing it on a phone, Dan. I mean...
Run it back.
Not there?
Jack?
When I was growing up, there was one type of barbecue. The Weber kettle. You remember it? A big dome, a cathedral of carnitas, beef, pork, ribs, and fish. This thing cooked it all, not with electricity or wood pellets, but good old-fashioned charcoal. That's right, charcoal, giving your burgers all the flavor of a coal mine. If you got too close, we start coughing like Zoolander. Now the only place I can find charcoal is in my wife's face wash.
Where's the audio?
Phone.
Jeremy, you are proudly holding the phone to the microphone.
I'm doing my best.
We can't hear anything.
I think Zoom it prioritizes the other audio, so it's canceling us out. But hey, it's here, and know that in spirit, it's here.
There you go. And cook time. You used to have to stand by the grill with your friends who would offer no cooking advice except to say, you should flip that one. Now, you have an app in your phone that sends you a text alert when your meat is perfectly cooked. So you don't even have to mind the grill. You can go out and enjoy the party and wait for Tim Cook from Apple to tell you when it's time to eat. Whatever happened to Dad? Standing by the grill, surveying his yard with an apron on his body displaying the words, "Kiss the cook." I fondly remember my father, Big Pete Williams, standing at the grill, casually flipping burgers while screaming swear words at me to stop bothering my sister. A Miller Lite in one hand, a cigar in the other, some Bob Seger on the radio, and an occasional sexist joke. That was living, baby. Time to get back to that, America. Throw down your face talks, your mumble rap, your veggie burgers, and your hard seltzers. Come back to what the barbecue is all about. It's about the American dream. It's about family, friends, burgers on the grill, baseball on the radio, and a dusting of racism. And for God's sake, put on some sunscreen. I'm Brad Williams, and that's how it was back in my day.
Very good, very good. That's my favorite one right there, barbecue.
Very good. Brilliant.
How can it be
Audio was great, right?
that every time that Jeremy didn't laugh, we heard music, or we didn't hear music, and then when Jeremy did laugh, we heard music. Mike, why are you shaking your head?
Dan, I'm not explaining Zoom again. I thought I was so far removed from the pandemic. I can't believe my life has led me back up here. Stop asking the questions. You're the one that wanted the bed. We did our best. Just end this show already, please.
I have another question for you, and it's
all my worst memories hitting back. This was supposed to be a joyous day, and Florida Power and Light has ruined it all.
You have written on Twitter before the game, the Heat will lose tonight, and it won't be because of the refs. It'll be because they're a bad team that got randomly hot.
Oh,
great
job. It was a dominant performance by the reverse jinx. That's what I was doing. You're welcome. And for everybody quote tweeting and thinking that I wasn't doing that, the joke's on you. The real ones, no.
Billy?
Hey.
You made a sound there, but perhaps Mike Ryan doesn't quite get to win there when he, like he did many times during this postseason run and during the season, totally bailed on all things Heat culture?
I mean, who am I to tell Mike he can't root for his team in the NBA Finals? You know what I mean? Tony, however, cannot root for this team because he wanted them to tank because he thought that they were going to get the #1 pick, which is absolutely absurd.
Mike was with me on that.
Yeah, but I've capitulated.
I capitulated as well. Well, it was AI that said it in the first place. It wasn't me.
And yesterday was performance art. I knew that my team needed me after Derek White. They needed an all-time reverse jinx, and I was willing to fall on that sword. And
thank you, Mike.
Everyone wearing Heat gear is happy I did. They would be lying to your face if they told you otherwise.
Mike got an MVP vote from what I saw.
Speaking of which, Reggie Miller, Mike, your thoughts?
That clown.
Oh.
I was, when Mark Jackson said that the Splash Brothers were the best and shooting backcourt of all time, we were all like, huh? That's ridiculous. And then we thought about it and we're like, maybe. Bruce Brown last week said Nikola Jokic is the best big man of all time. I was like, that's crazy. Wait a second. He might be. And during the course of the broadcast last night, Reggie Miller had the foresight to say, you know what? Caleb Martin's the MVP of this series. I was like, that's ridiculous. And then the more I saw Caleb Martin play, the more I looked up the stats, the more I realized, Reggie Miller, you are an influencer. You have foresight. What a great take, Reggie Miller. You're right. It's not the easy thing to say. Caleb Martin is the MVP of this series. Thank you for shedding light on this, Reggie Miller. And in a 5-4 vote, very close to see who would win the Larry Bird MVP, player of the franchise, or is it the Bob Cousy? Who gives? It happened. before mergers and expansion and honestly equal rights. Reggie Miller voted for Jimmy Butler. After all that, Reggie Miller voted for Jimmy Butler.
That's how you do it, Mike.
Caleb Martin.
Yeah.
He was the swing vote. He was the sole reason
he controlled
Caleb
it.
Martin didn't get the MVP.
How is that possible? How can
it's
you
possible, Dan.
But how? Why? Him and Stan Van Gundy were both making the argument on television, a reasonable argument, that when it became the most important time to win games, Caleb Martin was the one helping them win games.
Playing both sides.
No, he's playing, but he's not playing both sides. With the vote that he had, he played one side, the wrong side, the different side from the side he was telling us he was playing on television.
Did he lock
He
in
didn't
his vote
play his
before the
own
game?
side.
You got to play your own side. How do you not play your own side?
Put it on the poll, Juju. Do you have to play your own side? What is ESPN doing with its social media account recently? A lot of people have been asking questions in general, but now on its social media account is the Celtics almost became the first team in NBA history to overcome an 0-3 series deficit. The Celtics nearly did the impossible. Applause emoji, shamrock emoji. Why are we celebrating what they did last night? There should just be a poop emoji.
Dan, we're celebrating what they almost did and dismissing the fact that an 8 seed made it to the NBA Finals, right, Greg?
We should have celebrated that the Heat almost won Game 6. What are you doing? That kind of thing. Hello. What?
Very quietly over the weekend, I saw a report that the Chicago Bulls don't expect Lonzo Ball to ever play again. And I was surprised by that report. And then Doug Gottlieb reported that the Lakers believe that his knee issues are all related to the sneakers that his father tried to form an empire around when trying to get the Balls their millions of dollars. And it is a combination of something that will make you laugh, Stugotz, and also, if it is true, I don't know. Some of the Doug Gottlieb reports in the past have proven to not be true, but if it is true, it will also leave you with your mouth hanging open. The idea that his father, through a business enterprise, would end up ruining his oldest son's career.
Shame on me for just laughing at this story because of course, naturally you feel bad for Lonzo Ball, but it's laugh out loud funny that a loudmouth dad who was just relentless as his son was headed into the NBA was making shoes out of his own basement, and those shoes have caused his son.
That's not how he was making the shoes. The shoes
I felt
were
like
not.
he was.
The shoes were not being.
Yours?
Yes, we got ours, and they weren't made in his basement, but they were shoddily made. It was.
They were also a different style than what we ordered.
That's true too. Yes, that's also true. So you don't feel bad at all about laughing, actually.
I don't either. I only see the funny in this story. I mean, I don't know what to tell you because it's a funny story.
I'm checking the internet to see if this is a butt crack thing because you have the combination of Doug Gottlieb, who recently was sued for a report and just an asinine sounding report that the shoes are to blame for the knee injury.
Well, that's Gottlieb, though. That is not a butt crack situation. That is a Doug Gottlieb situation. Now, some people have called Doug Gottlieb a butt crack. It would not be inaccurate, perhaps, to call Doug Gottlieb a butt crack, but I was not butt cracked by a fake Doug Gottlieb account. That's not what ended up happening there. And the Chicago Bulls report, his career is in doubt, Mike.
That's true. Yes, his career is in doubt. That's 100% accurate. But
is it because of the shoe? I think that's what Mike is.
I understand.
With Gottlieb and the opportunity to make fun of the bigger ball brand shoes, I'm a little worried that you might have fallen for something.
Gottlieb did indeed tweet that the Lakers believed his initial injury was caused by his shoes. Big Baller Brand were complete trash, blah, blah, blah. But as people then called him on it, someone with the LA Sports Radio responded and said in a thread of a bunch of other trolls getting back at Gottlieb that the Lakers initially asked Lonzo Ball whether his Big Baller brand sneakers were to blame, according to Ramona Shelburne, and Gottlieb used that as an opportunity to say thank you. So I don't know if that's quite confirming that they actually believe that was the issue as much as it's saying they've brought it up before and I'm reporting that it's the issue.
Speaking of trolls, we have some sound from Mike Ryan's phone of Ryan Cortes, Minister of Heat Propaganda. He waited for a long time last night. Mike, did you ever hear on the hub while you were listening Ryan Cortes infiltrate the hub during Boston, taking sad, miserable calls about their franchise falling apart?
I did, because I got a hot tip that the name Michael might be one to keep an eye on. And the hub were teasing it. They had a lot of things to get off their chest, and they were doing the classic sport radio tease of everybody on hold, hang on right there, we'll get to your calls. And every time they would do that, they would mention Michael as one of the possible names. So I was holding on hope that this would be my big crescendo. And sure enough, Parakeet struck again.
Michael in Boston wants a drastic shake up too, so let's go to Mike.
Hey, fellas, I appreciate everything you guys have said tonight. You know, I wanted to talk to you two because I believe both of you are more rational than me on Tatum and Brown, because at the Sedano's bar, I was trying to trade both of them, not just one. And the guy next to me, I want to get your take. He kept saying to me in Spanish, Esta noche somos mantequilla, which loosely it translates to
Butter?
Culture chatter is on the hub. The Celtics were playing like, let's go Heat!
Oh, there we go. That guy hung on 51 minutes for that. I hope that was worth it to him.
Let's talk for a second here about the amount of laughter that surrounds this franchise today. Jaylen Brown was quoted, "We're the better team." Period. That was the quote was, "We're the better team." And what I'm seeing today, Stugotz, again and again, this is fairly amazing to watch when it's condensed in video form. The moment that Jason Tatum was no longer their one option, all you see is Jaylen Brown being forced to his left, and every time turning the ball over more than anyone has turned the ball over in that game. The reason that they're not the better team, amazingly enough, is because their supermax player can't go to his left when the Miami Heat knew he was going to try to go to his left, and he had 8 turnovers trying to go to his left. And the ridiculous, incompetent kinds of turnovers where you see fast break dunks on the other end because the ball is leaking out and it's just ending up in the chest of a Heat player.
He was really bad, but he's still a really good player. Like, Jaylen Brown is getting the brunt of this today, and I understand why. But it's a Jason Tatum injury. That's why the Celtics were out of that game. I mean, I feel like if Jason Tatum's healthy, I'm not saying the Heat don't win, but I feel like Jaylen Brown is not the punching bag today, and it's a much closer game. Like, that was unfortunate for Jaylen Brown. And there was no spacing there, Dan, which is exactly why you have to take Jason Tatum out. You do not continue to put Jason Tatum in that game. You just don't.
Blake Griffin.
Okay, he was standing there at the three-point line waiting for someone to throw him the ball. How about you space out the court a little bit?
Let's not spacing out the court.
You know what? Let's not equivocate here. Okay, Boston choked at home, and they are magnifying and underlining their own shame by having the gall to say that the better team lost. They're not the better team, and they wouldn't have been the better team if Jaylen was not injured on the first play. They were the worst team because they couldn't make a three-point shot, which fed their success all season long. They choked. It was a terrible loss by the Celtics. Own it, eat it, and quit saying you were the better team. You weren't.
The Miami Heat, you can say this was fluky, that was fluky, but the fact remains is they've gone through the 2 top winning percentages in that league, and they're now in the NBA Finals. This is not, Giannis turned his ankle and he wasn't there for an entire series. They were a great deal better than the Milwaukee Bucks in that series, as confusing as that was to almost all of us. They were a great deal better than the New York Knicks. They didn't even play well against New York. And the stats bear out that, yes, even though it went to 7 and everybody in Miami Heat garb was scared, they were also the better team in that series. And when Jimmy Butler had an off night, there were other people there to pick him up. Jason Tatum's going to be out there on the court, but not be 100%. He has Jaylen Brown, who we were told was the second best player in this series, maybe third best behind Jimmy Butler. He wasn't even third best behind Caleb Martin.
Just to be clear, though, on your total takes, they were the best team, but they're a bad team.
Right. The Miami Heat are the best team in the East, but they're a bad team.
Billy, speaking of shame, I want you to explain to me what happened in Big Suey, where it was revealed, and unfortunately, we were not there to hear what Team Zebra was doing. We were left out of what was relayed to me as one of the biggest lies ever in a Hall of Fame lying career from Stugotz revealed itself on Big Suey, and we weren't all there to hear what the giant lie was. I am searing. Wait a minute. Before you get sausage fingers in here, Stugotz, I'm looking at Jeremy Taché. He is red-faced in embarrassment for you. Like he right now is red-faced.
I think you're missing, Dan. You're missing a very important part. The big lie that did not come from me. It usually does. Well, I think there were a couple of lies, a couple of whoppers cutting it up, if you know what I mean. You know?
Well, what's the story?
Well, long story short, apparently years ago when Stugotz's daughter won a national championship in lacrosse this past weekend, Stugotz was very proud. What we found out was a couple of years ago, before Stugotz knew Jeremy, Stugotz reached out to our video producer at the time, Lorenzo, to make a reel for his daughter to send to schools to try to go into to get accepted to their school. And Lorenzo was, a one-man person doing all these jobs. So he passed that task, which was not a task of his, again, that Stugotz just dumped on him. He passed that off to Jeremy, who was an intern at the time working with Lorenzo. So Jeremy put together Stugotz's daughter's reel, which uncertain whether or not Stugotz paid him for or just promised extra work would be coming from other parents who saw the great work that he did, and they would in fact pay him. So as a result, when the news came out that Rachel had won the national championship, Jeremy apparently texted Stugotz a very nice text. Stugotz, I guess, was a little short, had a 1 or 2 word answer, and then hours later texted Jeremy back and said, I just showed this text to Rachel and to my wife. They both started crying when they read this text, to which Jeremy replied, oh my God, I'm crying reading that text from you. So we had two guys lying to each other about these nonsense texts and how each side was crying over them when neither of them really meant it.
I am happy that you made a long story short. I am happy that Roy is still roaring with laughter at your description of Lorenzo as a one-man person.
Yeah.
He is though. He is a one-man person.
A one-man person for sure.
Stugotz, so you were asking people to do private things that aren't their jobs, that are probably employee violations, making them work for you on things that weren't company related or professionally related?
That's right. I mean, this was back, when Rachel was in 10th grade. I reached out to Lorenzo and I said, do you know anyone who can help me with a highlight reel? And he put me in touch with Jeremy. Jeremy did a killer job. I may or may not have paid him. I'm not certain. I don't know if he got any other business out of it, but what I can promise you, Dan, is there were no tears, and I never showed the text to Rachel or Abby.
Jeremy, what were you promised in exchange for this lacrosse championship lacrosse video, and what did you get in exchange for doing job that Stugotz didn't deserve you actually doing and had no right to ask you to do?
Oh, buddy, I'm going to set you up with all the other dads on all the, I'm the coach. They're going to listen to me, buddy, and they're going to pay you. For sure, they're going to pay you. Make sure you just give them whatever your hourly rate is, buddy. Don't worry about it. I got you covered. That's what I got. And you know what I got from Stugotz? Nothing. I got nothing.
Tears.
Yeah, crocodile tears.
Crocodile tears. Do you know, Stugotz, how hard it is to be the thing that people in the basketball world are laughing about the most when second place on the list for this particular weekend is Scottie Pippen saying that Michael Jordan was a horrible basketball player before he got there? I thought, Mike speaks of butt crack. I thought that was AI. I thought because there was a delay on the video, I'm like, there's no way this is real. That's not possible that Scottie Pippen is saying that Michael Jordan was a horrible basketball player before he got there. I thought for sure I had to check 10 different places to make sure that they weren't all being fooled by something that was artificial intelligence.
I love that. He became great only when I got to the Chicago Bulls. That is fantastic.
Such a bad look for Scottie Pippen to be in this old age, this kind of bitter. Speaking of old age, Billy, you're worried about Greg Cote's health?
I am a little bit worried about Greg Cote's health, but also optimistic about it at the same time. I don't know if that's possible because...
Thank you, Billy.
You're welcome, Greg. So Greg told us that the last series he was having to do double duty with the Panthers and with the Heat, and that he was having to work every single night and how it was kind of wearing on him, right? Well, both teams advanced to the championship. So this is now going to go on for, I think, 19 more days where Greg's going to have to be covering both teams essentially every other night. I think there's only like one day in there that there's not going to be a game going on. So I'm a little bit concerned, as are many of the listeners, about what this is going to do to Greg, if he's going to be able to do this or not. Now, on the flip side, Greg also told us that he was in remarkable shape because it was cutting into his drinking time. So now Greg, for 3 more weeks, will not be drinking. So I'm worried for his life and his health and his safety, but also he could come out of this the healthiest he's ever been.
Yeah, I think that's, pardon me. I think that's going to be
mind.
the case.
I take it back.
$5.
It's my postseason fitness regimen. It really is. It's like a workout routine for me because it is cutting into my drinking time. I've lost, close to 10 pounds in the past month or so through no, credit of my own. It's not like I'm doing anything different other than drinking less because I'm doing all these games and everything. So, I think we're going to make it. I'm a yeoman at heart, and I'm giving it a yeoman's effort.
Stugotz, thank you very much. I appreciate your timing on that. Stugotz, can you help me on what it is that you think is more improbable? Because there were 2 things that happened that were funny in baseball this weekend. And one of them was in a high school game where a state championship was lost because the catcher on a 3rd strike went out, the ball bounced, and he immediately went out to celebrate with his pitcher. And because they didn't throw the ball to first base and get the final out of that particular game, 2 runs scored while they were celebrating on the mound. That was one improbable thing that happened in baseball. Another improbable thing that happened in baseball is that in a Twins game, Blue Jays center fielder Dalton Varsho, on consecutive plays, had back-to-back homers go off his glove while he was trying to jump at the wall to catch a home run, and it bounced off his glove and went over the wall. The statistical improbability of that has to be something close to its infinity. It simply cannot happen on back-to-back batters where the center fielder has the ball hit his glove. But among those 2 things, which do you think is more improbable? Deciding a championship with 2 runs scoring while you're celebrating your victory on the mound, or 2 back-to-back homers ending up off the glove of the center fielder?
The more improbable one is the back-to-back homers going off the fielder's glove and resulting in home runs. I mean, that is fantastic. That is great. It's the most, Dan, it is the most improbable one by far, I would say.
Jose Canseco would like a word.
Yes, but imagine that happening twice off his head on back-to-back home runs.
Back-to-back, right.
You're correct. You're correct that it remains the single most improbable baseball play and the greatest play in baseball history. But, I mean, you go home that night and you're Varsho, and you feel how about what it is that the universe has done to you, where that has to be one of the greatest feelings an outfielder can possibly have. And on back-to-back plays, he ends up feeling like a total fool. No one has anything for me on that.
No, I'm so
But Dan,
obsessed
I
over
do
the
have a
fact.
concern. I do have a concern because we were talking about Greg Cote's health, the getting through the finals and the Stanley Cup finals. I am concerned about Brooks Koepka's health. Like, I'm not certain he has slept yet. And then Vegas and Florida, private jet. This is shaping up to be a week for the ages for Brooks Koepka. And I, for one, am concerned about him. This is the worst possible two cities a man like that could attend hockey games at, and yet I suspect Koepka will be at every single one.
Well, we have to figure something out because David Sampson is saying that Meadowlark is going to open up some budget for people to end up going to Vegas and Colorado. How are we going to split that up? Is everyone around our show going to want to go do that, or is no one around our show going to want to go do that? Why are you making a face on this, Billy?
Is he in charge of the budget?
Yeah, what happened?
Seriously, David Sampson. What
I mean, he evidently has you weren't here last week, Billy, when he bought like half the show. He said that half the show was yelling at David Sampson about something, and he's like, I'll take care of Vegas for you, and everyone folded. We're like, we love David Sampson. He bought half the show. You didn't happen to be here, but Sampson was willing to do that. Send people to Vegas. Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
I'm in.
It's Tuesday. We need to work that one out a little bit.
Quickly. Yeah.
We would have to do that soon. No,
I would just given what happened today, I would prioritize getting power in our building.
Yeah, I will say this, Dan, to alleviate any feelings that you may have of nervousness about us covering the Stanley Cup final. I have been credentialed to cover the Stanley Cup final on behalf of Meadowlark Media. So I'll be there. I'm going to have to set aside, my biases and my fandom towards the Panthers, but I have been a credentialed member of the media for the Stanley Cup final. So I will be there to cover it on behalf of the company at no extra cost.
And I have been credentialed for the NBA playoffs at no extra cost as well. Biased member of the media. Salute to everyone involved. I got your backs.
And of course, I am credentialed for all 7 games of the Stanley Cup Final, so you're gonna have to pay me for that one.
Yeah, that's gonna incur cost though. I'm doing it at no cost. Additionally,
but you don't know anything about hockey.
I'm there to cover on. What is that supposed to mean? Whoa, what is that supposed to mean?
It means you don't know anything about hockey.
I do so.
What do you know about hockey?
I'm not on trial. Okay. I'll be there. I'll be covering the games. If you'd like to come cover, maybe put in a request, see if they approve you. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I'll also say that my NBA Finals one is up in the air at the moment. I'll update you when I know the situation there. But I'll be there covering. God bless hockey.
How do you feel about Vin Diesel over the weekend saying that Fast and the Furious isn't going to die, that there's going to be a spinoff? There's going to be
excited. At first, it was supposed to be a 2-part finale, and he's like, nah, we're going to do a 3-part finale instead. And then he's like, after that 3-part, maybe the Torettos get their own spinoffs. And then, Dan, we still are waiting on Hobbs and Shaw 2. That story can go anywhere. Tyrese is going to be angling for himself to get his own spinoff somewhere in there, maybe with Ludacris. I mean, the possibilities are endless with this Fast and Furious franchise and where it could end up. I'm so excited.
But how does this work? It's just going to not be Fast and the Furious anymore. It's going to be like the Creed equivalent of not being Rocky, but being Rocky because it's going to be the Torettos instead of Fast and the Furious.
Well, we already got one with Hobbs and Shaw, right? So we got that kind of spin-off situation, which, by the way, Hobbs and Shaw, if you put that under the Fast and Furious franchise, which it should be, one of the better movies in the franchise is Hobbs and Shaw. Now, Hobbs and Shaw 2, we're still waiting on that one. Statham and The Rock had incredible chemistry. I don't know what's going to go on with the Torettos, who Vin Diesel is going to take with him over there, but, I mean, we can be optimistic, right? Do you want to see the Fast franchise die? I know you don't. I don't. Brad doesn't.
Of course not. No, of course not. Because now if there's more spinoffs, there's only a matter of time until they make a dwarf martial artist. And that's when I will substitute myself in. Peter Dinklage can't do it. He's not available. I can do it. No problems there. I will insert myself into the Fast franchise.
How do you know Dinklage's schedule? How do you know he's not available?
Brad won't say it, but he's above it. He thinks that he's better than everyone, that Dinklage. Get out of here.
Exactly. I've been saying it for years. And besides Dan, we all have a group chat going. It's me, Wee Man, Dinklage. Yeah, we all have a group chat. It's fine.
You think a Dinklage thinks he's too much of a thespian to be a Fast and the Furious sellout?
Absolutely. The man was in Pixels, and ever since then, completely pivoted with his career. So he's only going for art stuff. He was on the Mark Maron podcast. talking about how degrading to little people the new Snow White remake was or is because they're hiring dwarves to play dwarves. Yeah, so degrading, giving us checks, Dinklage.
I saw his ass rapping Busta Rhymes in a Doritos commercial. He'll do this damn movie.
Wow.
You were worried about the health of Greg Cote, and you're worried about the health of Brooks Koepka. Is anyone worried about the health of a clearly always inebriated Conor McGregor? Conor McGregor is always drinking from his crappy whiskey, which I believe the Guardian in a critique called in its whiskey critiquing unpleasant. Called his whiskey unpleasant. Conor McGregor is trying to get into the game of I'm going to get fights with just my mouth, but every time we see him anywhere, he seems to be slurring his way through interviews, and we're trying to decide while watching it, is that the fight game or is that the drinking? Which is it?
It's hard for me to look at him with that face. His face has become cartoon. Like, it's not even him anymore. There's sometimes where I see him on social media, I'm like, oh, who's that guy? Oh, that's Conor McGregor. Why does he have that jaw that's like 16 feet out? It's weird.
Any theories on that, Mike? Is this I wish I had the
HGH.
Whoa! I mean, who said that?
Yeah.
He's now in USADA, by the way, just so everybody knows. He's back into the pool testing in USADA, suspiciously.
Yeah.
After a
Heads
very
tend
long
to grow
layoff.
on human growth hormone. That's everything grows.
Long layoff there on that USADA testing.
Greg Cote, please help me. Where is your son?
You know what? I saw him on the train. I can verify that we drove back on the Brightline train together. Ever since then, I have not seen him. I have no idea where he is. I'd like to know. I don't know. You tell me. Where is he? Wait a minute. I know what just happened. Did it just happen already? See, there's no sound anymore. There's not even a clue. There's no clock. There's no sound. This is totally unfair.